would be the end of our NHS and seriously threaten the health and well-being of millions of our fellow citizens.
Prime Minister.
Can I wish him a speedy recovery? He obviously speaks with great authority and experience on our NHS, and he's right to point out that waiting lists are the lowest for 3 years, A&E waiting times are the best for 4 years, and ambulance response times are faster for 5 years. That's because of the investment that we put in and they opposed. But I wonder how much my honourable friend would have been charged if he had arrived at a reform hospital under an insurance-based scheme. That would turn the clock back. The NHS is on the road to recovery. Don't risk it with reform.
Vicky Slade.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the Prime Minister join me in congratulating Dorset Wildlife Trust and the people of Dorset for their incredible efforts to secure Upton Heath for nature after part of this internationally designated site was put up for sale after decades-old planning consent was being used for mineral extraction? We've worked round the clock to raise hundreds of thousands secured just last night to buy the site. But the value was inflated by this permission from the 1950s, which should never have applied to a site of special scientific interest. Will the Prime Minister demonstrate his government's commitment to nature by committing to legislate to extinguish historic planning consents without compensation on sites that achieve international environmental designation?
Minister.
Can I thank the honourable member, and relevant ministers are happy to discuss with her the specific site that she mentions at greater depth, and reassure her we're committed to protecting our countryside. Our land use framework balances restoring nature with meeting demands of homes and energy. We've just announced £60 million. That's a record amount to support nature and threatened species.
Rachel Hopkins.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I greatly welcome the Government's announcement to open up a youth hub in Luton to help bring together jobs, skills and wellbeing support in one place. So does the Prime Minister agree with me that after years of neglect under the previous Conservative government, it's this Labour government that's investing in the future of our young people?
Can I start by congratulating Luton Town on winning at Wembley? Coached, of course, by Jack Wilshere, a great ex-Arsenal star. I'm delighted her constituency is benefiting from a new youth hub, one of the 80 additional hubs that we're launching across the country. That stark contrast to what we inherited. Over 1,000 youth centres were closed under the Tories. Spending on youth services was slashed by 73%. Labour's bringing youth clubs back, and we're proud to do so, building a better future for our young people.
Greg Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. After 25 years on Prince's Risborough High Street, retailer Cado have said they are closing, citing hikes in business rates and the increases on taxation on employing people amongst their reasons. A few yards up on Duke Street, Salon 24 Hair, for the first time in 21 years, cannot afford to take on a new apprentice. How many more businesses need to close, jobs be lost, and apprenticeship opportunities trashed need to happen before this Prime Minister understands that the practical outturn of his policies aren't working?
Well, I'm concerned to hear of those examples. We have put in place support for small businesses, and I'll make sure that's available to him to pass on to his constituents.
Dave Robertson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Tomorrow night I will be hosting a public meeting about the chronically delayed Burntwood Health Centre. For over a decade, well over a decade, people in my town have been let down by the lack of this replacement facility. We thought there might be light at the end of the tunnel when we were promised it by the end of 2025, but the end of last year came and went, no health centre and not even a planning permission. Will the Prime Minister agree with me that the County Council, now led by Reform, have promised a new health centre to the people of Burntwood, and they must make sure that there are no more broken promises to my constituents?
Prime Minister.
Well, he's a great champion for his constituents, and it's shocking that they've been waiting over a decade for this practice. I agree with him, but sadly, Reform's leadership in Staffordshire is an absolute mess. They've had three leaders in 3 months. One of them forced to step down for appalling racist comments, and they're simply not getting on with the job. He's obviously proud of that. All you can count on for Reform is chaos and division.
Final question, David Simmons.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Last year, my constituents suffered the closure of the urgent care centre at Mount Vernon Hospital. And this year they face the loss of the cancer centre as well, leaving my most vulnerable constituents with long and difficult journeys to access life-saving and life-sustaining treatment. So will he encourage his Health Secretary to join in the U-turns and guarantee the future of Mount Vernon Hospital?
I don't know the particular details of his hospital, but I will make sure that they're looked into. We have put record investment into the NHS, but now he's raised that, I will make sure we look specifically into the case that he's raised here in this House.